Good evening. My name is Sandy Major. I'm the Director of Religious Education here, and on behalf of the clergy, staff, and parishioners of St. Pius X Catholic Church, I welcome you to our presentation of A Different Kind of Love. The idea is to show you that we are all called to a different kind of love. In this crazy world that we live in, we are conditioned to believe that being called to the religious life is for special and holy people. Believe me when I tell you that we are all holy. Just remember that the meaning of holy is to be set aside for God. All too often, we are led to believe that there are fewer vocations now than in the past. That simply is not true. God is definitely calling. However, our young people are not taught to listen, and we fail to encourage them to consider the religious life. Hopefully, these stories will encourage young and old alike to do our part in promoting vocations. Finally, I encourage you to always remember and never forget that God never calls us to remain within our own comfort zones. If you are feeling a little uncomfortable with what you believe God is calling you to do, perhaps He is also trying to teach you to trust Him. We pray that everything you hear tonight will assist you in discerning your unique vocation within your unique life. Without further ado, let me introduce to you our pastor, Father Juan Areiza.
Good evening again. So I'm very happy and very humbled to be here today to share with you my vocation story. I don't know what Sandy meant when she introduced this night and said that God doesn't call holy and good people. I don't know what she meant. I have been holy from the very beginning. I have been good from the very... I was a little angel at home. I don't know what she's talking about. I'm glad you know better. In my case, for me, whenever I tell my vocation story, I have to begin by talking about family. I truly believe that my family played a huge role in my vocation at the very beginning when I first received the call, or even before then, where I was loved and understood what love was all about. So let me talk for a second about my family, because without them, I wouldn't be able to tell you the story of my vocation. I was born as the second child of a Catholic couple. Mom, her name is Clara. Dad, his name is Aníbal. And Mom was an elementary school teacher and principal. So can you imagine what it was to have at home the same person playing three different roles in your life? Mother, teacher, and principal. I see some young people going like, what? Yes, you cannot complain about it. It was a very loving family that God gave me from the very beginning. Dad was working and worked all his life in the same company, a textile company. And he started as the janitor of the place and ended up as one of the supervisors. So he made his career, as it happened years ago, that Most people didn't have a chance to go to school, but as they took a job with a company, the company will give them the opportunity to start working in their knowledge and to create a vocation in which they could grow within the same company. And they both retired at the age of, mom at the age of 50, dad at the age of 65, in those two roles, in the same work that I have known them. I had a great older brother who played a great role in my life too. And then I was blessed with two younger brothers and a sister who is the youngest in the family. We were a very normal family, ups and downs, yelling here and there, laughing, crying some other times. But there was love all the time. I remember getting home from school or from a soccer game or from any extra class activity that I will be at, knowing that I was getting to the place where I felt loved and protected the most. So my family and my home growing up was like truly a sanctuary for me. That's when I first experienced love. To love and to be loved. That's what I think put the main base for me to love God and His church and to start looking into the call that I felt in my heart. When I got to my religious education classes and I heard for the first time, God is love, it clicked in my mind. Something in my mind went like, makes sense. Of course, God is love. He gave me my mom, my dad, He gave me my older brother, He gave me my siblings, He gave me my family. That's what, without knowing, I was experiencing love. I was experiencing God Himself. So when I was told for the first time, God is love, during my religious education classes, I remember I was a little child, little angel, as I said at the beginning. That made sense in my mind. As young as I was, I understood that God was love. And because He loved me, I was able to experience that love, first of all, within my family. Then at the age of 12, I received my first Holy Communion. And again, something in my mind went like click and made sense up to this day. And don't ask me what it was. And let me tell you something, I was not the best in my religious education class. One thing that my mother will tell you is that I am a good student, but my discipline doesn't match my mind. She will tell you how many times she was calling to teachers' offices and her co-workers to say, Juan is doing great in his classes, but he doesn't behave that well. Those of you who are teachers, you will understand when someone can do homework quickly than the others, and then get up from his place and start looking for some fun around or for something else to do, those children usually get into trouble, right? Well, I was one of those little angels. I was the one my mother had to talk to other teachers about. Not my older brother, not my younger siblings. My mom had to stop her work at the school so many times to go hear the complaints they will have about me running around, bothering my classmates, and just being distractive for others. It was no difference during my religious education classes. I remember my catechist was an elderly lady who passed away just a few years ago, and she was teaching religious education up to a few years ago. And one day she told me to leave the class. She just couldn't stand me anymore. So she took me out of my classroom and sent me home. You know, in Colombia, where I grew up, and when I celebrated all my Baptist, First Communion, and Confirmation, we live within a walking distance of the church. So sending the child home does not represent any danger or anything. Then she would laugh when she was at my ordination ceremony, especially at my first Mass, because she told me, I couldn't believe the only guy I have ever taken out of the religious education class is now my priest. But anyway, I received the first Holy Communion, and from that moment, don't ask me again what happened, but in my mind and in my heart, something made a click. And I remember after receiving Holy Communion, which I received at the age of 12, along with confirmation, my behavior changed. And I started to excel both in my academics and my behavior, my discipline. Everybody noticed that something happened to Juan, and they couldn't explain it, and I couldn't either. I did not even know back then how to talk about it. But from the moment I received that first Holy Communion, I started to feel a desire to receive Him every single day. And so I will leave my last class in my middle and high school to make sure to get it on time, to get to the church on time for the 4 p.m. Mass. That was a daily Mass. And even when I made it late to Mass, I will jump into the communion line and receive Holy Communion. Then I became an altar server, and then I became part of the youth ministry, and then I became part of the parish, closely to the parish. And everything started to grow within me regarding my love and my call for the Holy Eucharist, my love for the Holy Eucharist especially. During that time, and this is very, very, very true and very funny, I used to have a lot of good friends where I was the misbehaving kid at school. I used to have a lot of friends to go out, to chat, to laugh. When I started to behave well, or a little bit better, there were none, or at least not that many. And when I started to talk about how much I love going to Mass and serving as an altar server and receiving Holy Communion, all that I started to hear was laughs around me, you know. People will make jokes, you know, from being Juan, the guy who didn't know how to behave in the classroom. Now you are the Holy Juan, you know. And they used to call me Holy Juan. And the funny thing is, being 12 years old, I was not feeling bad at all. And for me, that was not like the insult some people intended. Then when I was 16 years old and I was in my last year of high school, I started to talk about the possibility of going to seminary. And that's when I started to hear the word no so many times. First of all, from classmates, even from teachers, they'll say, no. Seminary life is not for people like you. Some others said seminary life is not for people who come from the kind of family that you come from. I never knew what they meant. Some other told me, that doesn't fit your personality. One went as far as to say, and this is not me saying this just for my own pride, but one said, the handsome ones always go to seminary. You know, all of those things that if you don't have that deep love for this call and for God and the Holy Eucharist especially, you will not be able to overcome, you know. And especially in the world that we live today, in which we care so much about what other people say about us. Sometimes we, even wanting to do something, we don't do it just because there is not the approval of people around us that we think are important to us. But even though I heard so many no's in the way, well, some others told me you are too young, no, because this is for people who are really into praying and we don't see you praying that much. You need to grow and mature a little bit more. So there was like, no. But then I told my mom and my dad about it. And my mom said like, I'm not sure about it. I think she thought at some point I was going to go back to the misbehaving child and they will be calling her from seminary too to tell him to come and pick me up. And she's like, no, you know what? Not yet. But then my dad told me, I think it's fine. If you want to go, go. And my mom said, okay, go. Whatever you want. We will support you. But then she said, but just in case, your room will not change at least for the next 6 months. I started the process, and we were about 30 guys going to seminary during the first year of the process, just going to meetings, going to interviews, praying together as a group of people, of young guys from the diocese, which was a very small diocese. And we have to go to 3 different encounters with the rector of the seminary, priests from the diocese, and seminarians. And then at the end of that last year of high school, we will learn who made it through the process and who didn't. To my happiness, but also my surprise, only 3 guys from the group of 30 were chosen to begin the process in seminary. And I was one of them. I remember coming home and telling my mom and my dad, I made it, they picked me. They picked 3 out of the 30, and they were like, no way, really? They were very happy for me, and they really showed that happiness and that support. But my mom still told me, son, if you ever want to come back, you know this is home. And that has been a phrase that I have heard many times from mom. No, I sometimes when I'm when I have a heavy day, or when I'm too worried about something, or when something is heavy in my heart, or in my soul, or in my shoulders, I just talk to her, and even without telling him that I'm not doing well, she's like, you sound down, what is going on, what's happening? And so we talk, and she always tells me, son, this is your home. You know you come back anytime. I'm almost 40 now. And she always says, well, before becoming a priest, you were already my son. She even tells me that when I try to play the moral authority in the house. So I started my seminary with 2 more classmates. 1 didn't show up, so we were really 2. Even though they have accepted 3, only 2 showed up for the first day in seminary. And we started to walk together with the rest of the seminarians, with several good priests, with teachers, with the Pontifical University helping us with the academic part. And after 5 years of seminary, the bishop calls me and tells me, Juan, I think you are still too young. If you continue like this, you will be done by the age of 23. So I'm going to propose something for you. Why don't you just go out of the seminary for 1 or 2 years and have like a life experience? If you want to study something, he said, I will help you pay for that. What I was hearing was, no. And that really broke my heart. 5 years of seminary, to be told by the bishop, you are still too young. You need to have some more life experience and you need to grow up and to mature. All that I heard when I was already 20, 21, all that I was hearing was another no. So I said, are you sure? And he looked at me like, yes, I am sure, Juan. I'm sure of what I'm telling you. And I said, I don't understand. I don't understand it. But I told him, you are the authority, and I trust your judgment. What I really wanted to say was, goodbye, I will never come back. You know, those moments in which pride gets into your heart. And so I was away from seminary. I called my mom and said, Mom, I'm coming back. By then I was 21 and she was like, that was 6 months that I gave you. So I went on to work on my own and I kept going to the same university. I continued my theological studies, never stopped doing that. And I got the support of a priest who was a teacher in the Pontifical University. And he asked me to be the music director of his parish, along with, and helping also with the religious education program for those years. Because he told me when I shared with him that I had been asked to leave for a couple of years, he told me, Juan, that's normal. Many young guys are asked to leave seminary. They are not telling you that you don't have a vocation. They are not telling you that you are not good enough, because no one is good enough. They are just telling you to come out of the seminary, to have some experience as a man, and to grow and to mature a little bit and then keep moving. I was not having it. And even though I was working at a parish, I was not praying. I was not going to confession as often as I used to. I was not working on my spiritual growth. 6 months after that, this priest tells me, Juan, you have vocation. I see it. Now that you have been working with me, I see it. Have you ever thought about leaving Colombia? I'm like, no. What do you mean leaving Colombia? My family is here. My friends are here. And he said, Juan, I think with your academic capacity, you can easily learn a second language and help the universal church somewhere else. I say, no, what are you talking about? That day, he put me to pray again by suggesting that I was going to leave Colombia. So I remember going back to the church that day from my classes and going to the Holy Sacrament, and I knelt down and I say, please don't. I will keep singing masses, I will keep teaching catechesis, I will keep helping priests and parishes. But you know I was hard. And I don't want to go back. Well, as they say, we make plans and God laughs, right? I kept saying no for about almost 2 years. And one day, this same priest tells me, Juan, I'm going to take you out for lunch, so get ready. I got ready, and we went to this parish, a bigger parish than the one I was working at. And he takes me into the parish, and there are two priests in black attired, priestly attired. And they both welcomed me and telling me, are you ready for the interview? And I'm like, what interview are you talking about? Supposed to come here for lunch. And they go on to say, well, I'm Father such and such and Father such and such. We are from the Vocation office of the Archdiocese of Atlanta. And I'm like, Atlanta? Where is that? And they laughed, and we have an interview, So they sat down. One of them was, both of them were actually from Colombia, and they were helping here, Father Fabio Sotelo and Father Guillermo Cordova. And so we have a conversation in which I told them, I don't want to go. Father Carlos is recommending me. He thinks that I can come back to seminary and this and that, but I don't want to go. And they laughed all through the interview. A month later, I get a letter from the Archdiocese of Atlanta in English. I spent like a month of my salary paying for professional translation, And the letter said, welcome to the Archdiocese of Atlanta. I had been granted a full scholarship to come here. So I went again to the Holy Sacrament, and for the first time in 2 years, I told him, look, I'm not moving a finger this time. I'm doing nothing. But if this is your will, I will follow. I think Father Carlos, the priest I was working for, heard me. So what he did was he immediately got into the computer, print all the forms for application for a visa, student visa, fill it up, made me sign it, and said, you are not going to do anything. God is going to take your promise. I will do it all. And so he did. A month later, I had a visa to come to the United States. And I have everything went just like boom, 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 one thing right after the next. And then it was time to tell my family that I was leaving. And that wasn't fun. But by the grace of God, people tell me, Father, how did you end in the Archdiocese of Atlanta? I say, God pulled me by my hair from Colombia and just let go of my hair when I got here. That was it. All in all, it's been through God's grace that I have been able to regain and to go back into the program and to keep going. And by the grace of God, it's for sure by the grace of God that I learned English and that I ended up finishing my theology master here and becoming a priest after 5 years of being here in the Archdiocese of Atlanta. And my ordination was in May 31st, 2008. 12 years and a half now. 12 years and a half. All by the grace of God. Up and downs, yes and no's, but all the time, God was there in the Holy Eucharist for me. That was the only thing that I never gave up. People ask me, Father, what kind of priest are you? I always answer, an Eucharistic priest. Everything I do in my ministry comes from here. And I don't know if Father Adam agrees or not with me, but that's what I have most of the morning masses, and I gave him the evening masses. because I love beginning my day with the Holy Eucharist. If I have to get up for a meeting, I get up complaining. If I have to get up for a rosary, let me be honest and don't get scandalized, I get up complaining. But as long as I have to get up for the Holy Mass, no pain at all. So brothers and sisters, that's more or less, because Father Adam is going like, oh yeah, time. It's my turn. Stop talking. That, more or less, is my vocation story. It's all about family, love, yeses, noses, but all with God's grace and the Holy Eucharist. That's how God called me. Why did He call me? I ask that question every single day. I know I'm not worthy. I know it's not because who else in town will He call? I know it's not because of my capacities, of my abilities. Because I think there are many capacities and abilities that I see in my brother priest that I don't have, and sometimes I'm like, oh, I would like to have that to myself. I know it's all because of God's grace. And I don't know what I'm your pastor here now, if not by God's grace. So please, tonight, to close my vocation story, pray for me. Pray for me often. Pray for my family. They taught me to love God. They let me experience the love that helped me to understand that God is love. They taught me respect for the church. And that's how I actually started to come into service of my parish. And I pray that that happens in every single family. That children may feel always loved and safe, and that they might grow in love. Love of parents and love of God. Bring God's love into your families. You hear me saying that all the time at Mass. That's what made the difference in my case for my vocation. So please pray for me and pray for my family too. And if I always say, anything good that you see in me, it comes from God and my family. Anything bad you see in me, I have figured in the way without anyone telling me. Never blame my mom and my dad for my mistakes. Those are on my own. So thank you for coming tonight, for listening and participating tonight. And again, very humbly, I was very happy to share this story with you. There are most up and downs, but I only was given 20 minutes, which I became 25. That's what Father Adam is making signs in the back. God bless you all. You all have a good night. And remember, please, pray for the priest and the vocation. Here in the parish, we have 2 guys in the process in seminary already. And we have several young men and women inquiring, asking. We also have a few married men going through the process of being accepted for permanent diaconate along with their wives. And pray for all of you, because all of you have a vocation to marriage. Some others to single life, but we all have a vocation to holiness, a call to holiness. So when we pray for vocation, let us pray for the holiness of each other as well. Thank you and have a good night.